up as a kid, yeah. All a nigga wanna have was a Burberry scarf and $3 in my pocket. Instead I got beat with a switch, but I don't give a fuck, but it's on my body. Scars all up on me, but I run around from.
Off with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now the Jacksonville Jaguars, man. A lot of people feel like the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be tanking for Trevor Lawrence. And it surely looks like that with the recent moves that they made this offseason. They traded away Calais Campbell. They got rid of A.J. Bouye. And just recently, they released halfback Leonard Fournette. So, I mean, when you look at the Jaguars, I don't think they are necessarily bad enough to go 0-16. I do think they could probably win about 5, maybe 6 games because, you know, although they did lose Leonard Fournette, this is still a pretty decent offense, at least from a talent standpoint. Now, on the offense side of football, the halfbacks who are probably going to be replacing Leonard Fournette, unless they bring in somebody else, are going to be Chris Thompson and Raquel Armstead. Now, I believe Chris Thompson has some familiarity with Jay Gruden and his offensive system. So I think Chris Thompson is most likely going to end up being the starting halfback, and then Raquel Armstead will just be the backup. But I do think both those guys will most likely split carries. And, you know, here's the thing. When I was talking to a friend of mine who is a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, he said that Leonard Fournette is a great halfback, but one downside about Leonard Fournette was the fact that he really wasn't all that great of a pass catcher. And to be effective as a halfback in this day and age of the NFL, you got to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. And that's one thing that Leonard Fournette was never really able to do, and he was never really able to develop into a even above average pass catcher. So you get rid of Leonard Fournette, who pretty much was your best player on offense, but you still do have a lot of talent. I mean, you got a really good wide receiver core. You got DJ Chark, who a lot of people are really high on. You got Dede Westbrook. You got Chris Conley, who has been making a lot of noise so far throughout the Jacksonville Jaguars training camp. You also got rookie Laviska Shenault as well, who also has been pretty solid, and tight end Tyler Eifert. So, I mean, you still have a pretty good group of skill position players for Gardner Minshew to throw the football to. And another question going into the season is, are the Jacksonville Jaguars going to be all in on Gardner Minshew? Now, Gardner Minshew came out a few weeks ago or a week ago, I believe, and said that Jacksonville Jaguars drafting another quarterback over him will be the biggest mistake that franchise ever made and their whole entire history. Now, I don't know where Gardner Minshew means by, you know, biggest mistakes, because this is a franchise that has made a ton of them, you know, so I don't know how big of a mistake that could be if they draft another quarterback over him, because this franchise makes a lot of mistakes. So, I mean, you know, but I do understand where he's coming from. When you look at Gardner Minshew, he was probably the second best rookie quarterback last year behind Kyler Murray. And really, he probably was in the running to win Offensive Rookie of the Year until, you know, they tried to reinsert Nick Foles. And then once they reinserted Nick Foles, that kind of ruined his momentum and kind of threw off everything. They did try to, you know, they did put Gardner Minshew back in. But at that point, you know, the chemistry, the timing was already really messed up. And Gardner Minshew kind of fizzled out a little bit because of that. So now we really get to see what Gardner Minshew is going to be able to do as a full-time starter, starting off full 16 games for the Jacksonville Jaguars this season. And I mean, last year he had 3,271 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He had one of the best touchdown to interception ratios in the NFL. He also completed 6% of his passes as well. Now, the biggest knock on Gardner Minshew that I always hear people say about him is that, you know, he's not the most talented guy. You know, he just has enough to get by, which, I mean, nobody really talks about his mobility. Like, this guy is really good when it comes to, you know, extending plays or, you know, getting a couple of yards when things break down in the pocket. And that's something that a lot of people really don't talk about Gardner Minshew. A lot of people just say, you know, he lacks the arm strength and things like that. But, you know, having talent is anything. You know, the guys who have the least amount of talent are the guys who pretty much end up being pretty good, because when you don't have a lot of talent, you have to, you know, make sure that the rest of your skills are pretty good and everything else. So although Gardner Minshew doesn't have the greatest arm, I think he's pretty accurate with the ball. I think he throws a pretty nice deep ball, you know, and I think he has a lot of mobility to make up with his lack of arm strength. So, you know, I think that Gardner Minshew has what it takes to be the franchise quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but it's going to be interesting to see. And then this defense, man. So I have a lot of concerns about this defense, and I have concerns about this offensive line. Now, this offensive line, I don't really trust how this offensive line is looking, man. This offensive line is kind of rough looking on the outside looking in, but maybe they could surprise me because I believe that this offensive line is pretty much built to run the football, really. I think this is a really good run blocking offensive line, but when it comes to pass protection, I don't really think they're all that great. So if the Jacksonville Jaguars have to throw the football like 40, 35 times a game, I don't think that benefits the offensive line because when you look at how this offensive line was constructed, I think this offensive line was more constructed for a run-first offense. So now you get rid of Leonard Fournette, how committed is Jacksonville going to remain to the run game? So then this defense, at least from the defensive line standpoint, I think they have a lot of talent here. You got Josh Allen, who went to the Pro Bowl as a rookie last season. You also got Caleb Chasen. Whenever he's able to, suit up and play, he should have a pretty impactful year as a rookie as well. You also got Tavion Bryant, has kind of took a while to kind of come on, but maybe this could be the season that he breaks out with Calais Campbell being traded. Maybe he has a bigger role in this defense. You also pick up linebacker Joe Schobert in free agency from, the Cleveland Browns. You also got linebacker Miles Jack, who is one of the more better linebackers that we have in the NFL when he's able to stay on the field. Then, the front seven is pretty decent, okay? The front seven that Jacksonville has isn't really all that much on my mind when it comes to the concerns on defense. What really concerns me is the cornerback position. So you got C.J. Henderson and who else? I don't really know. So unless you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, do this. Name me two more cornerbacks on the Jacksonville Jaguars roster without Googling them. I don't think you can. So you got C.J. Henderson and basically who else? Now, the safety position should be a little bit better than what a lot of people are giving it credit for. You got Ronnie Harrison, who was pretty okay last year, and you got Gerard Wilson, who I feel was better than Ronnie Harrison. So the safety position is a little bit solid. I mean, can they improve? Yeah, but I'm not going to nitpick there, but the cornerback position is a big concern to me. So, I mean, when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars team, man, without Leonard Fournette, this is pretty much the best player that they had on their team going into the season. Now, he's gone, so, I have to question what is their identity going to be on offense. Jay Gruden, he is a pretty innovative offensive mind. I think he's a pretty solid play caller, So what is he going to have in mind in terms of his offense? Because I don't think this team is going to be all that great running the football. Because although a lot of people can nitpick and say what they want to about Leonard Fournette, when he's fully healthy and teams aren't stacking the box against him, he's a really doggone good halfback. So, I mean, I don't really know what the Jaguars are looking to do on the offense side of football because this is a team that over the last couple of seasons offensively has been built really to just run the football. So, Leonard Fournette's gone, so I don't really know what to expect out of this offense. So I'm taking that Jay Gruden is probably going to run somewhat of like a West Coast oriented offense or something like that. I think we're going to end up seeing a lot of intermediate passes. Then he's going to try to open it up with the play action pass game. Then he's going to try to, mix in the run. But overall, I don't really know what the identity of the Jacksonville Jaguars offense is going to be. And quite frankly, although I am a Doug Marrone fan, I think this Jacksonville Jaguars franchise just needs to hit the reset button and clear house. What Sean Khan needs to do, he needs to set a fire under this organization, burn it to shreds, and then bring in some new front office people, bring in a new coaching staff, because I think that really I've seen enough out of this coaching staff. I've seen enough out of this front office. I mean, their general manager, Dave Caldwell, has been there since 2013. And 2013, I was in, fifth grade, I believe, when he first got hired. And ever since then, now that I have graduated high school, Dave Caldwell has only been, to one playoff appearance ever since he has taken over as the general manager for the Jacksonville Jaguars, aside from, when Tom Coughlin was there a couple of years back. But overall, Dave Caldwell hasn't really did anything as GM for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I believe that it's his time to go, man, because he hasn't really did anything noteworthy for the Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of players that he drafted, they're not even on the roster anymore. Guys like Jalen Ramsey, guys like, who else did they draft? I can't even think of the names right now. Jalen Ramsey's not there. It's just that a lot of the guys that they drafted aren't even on the roster anymore. So it doesn't really make any sense of why he's still the general manager for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but maybe Sean Khan knows something about David Caldwell that we don't know. But this is it for my Jacksonville Jaguars team preview. I'm not really all that high on this team. I don't think this team is going to go 0-16, but I don't necessarily think they're going to make it to the playoffs or they're going to be like a contender in this AFC South division in 2020.